You're all going overboard. You're doing too much. But it's not just about doing too much. If you're going to stay up all night, the human body, what's going to happen to it? You're not going to have energy in the day. You're going to be half asleep in the day. So by the time you get to Dhuhr prayer, even if you're praying and your eyes are rolling in the back of your head. Are you able to concentrate even on the other prayers? No. You went overboard here, and the price is going to be paid somewhere else. And you were required to do work in the day. You were required to take care of your family in the day. You were required to be maybe he's a guard at the gates of a city, and he's half asleep. Is he putting other lives at risk because he's staying up all night every night? And can other lives be lost because he was staying up all night and he's thinking he's doing a good thing? Yeah. That one good thing, too much of it can create major problems, can't it? Somebody says, I love the masjid. The rewards, I heard a lecture about the rewards of being in the masjid. I just want to be in the masjid all the time. I just don't want to leave. I just want the blessings of Allah. The dunya is fitna outside. I just want to be in Allah's house. Nobody's here. One car parked outside. Homeboy sitting here and just chilling. Hours and hours and hours, right? What happens to the rights of his wife, his children, his mother, his father? What happens to his financial responsibilities? What happens to his social responsibility? What happens to all of that? All of the things, and he's sitting here reading Quran. He's sitting here 8 hours a day reading Quran. But that Quran is telling him to take care of his family. That Quran is telling him to make sure that he takes care of his parents. That Quran is telling him to fulfill all of these other obligations. And ironically, he thinks he's doing a good thing while violating all of those ayat that he's so passionately reciting. You can do a good thing, but it can very easily turn into a bad thing. Why? Because you can go out of balance. It's as simple as that, just going out of balance. Our entire religion is actually based on this idea of balance. What happens often is that a person, sin happens, human beings make mistakes. So you made a mistake. Let's just say you one time got very angry at your child and you raised your voice. Now there's a guilt in you. I can't believe I was so harsh to my kid. I can't believe I did that. I'm never going to raise my voice at my child again. I'm never going to be that kind of dad again, etc., 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 right? Now you decide to become like the most pacifist father that ever existed. Is that healthy for your child? Does your child still need boundaries? Does your child still need some discipline? Does your child sometimes you need to take a stern tone and correct your child, etc.? But you're reacting to one mistake and you're overcorrecting. You're overcorrecting, and you created another extreme. And that extreme is not benefiting your child. That extreme is destroying your child. It's actually destroying your child. This is the teaching that goes across the board in everything, even not just at the level of individuals. In this part of the world where I come from, in South Asia, for example, in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc., we are taught religion most of the time. Unfortunately, we're taught the religion through an extreme. So for example, there'll be a lot of emphasis on the rights of elders and the rights of parents and the rights of somebody, or the respect for scholars, for example. All of these are good things. I should respect scholars. I should respect my parents. My elders have rights, etc., etc., etc. But when you only emphasize that and emphasize it and emphasize it and emphasize it, and it gets inflated and bloated, it becomes ghulu. And now what happens? Now there are other people who have rights, and now it becomes okay to take away their rights because your mother told you to take them away, or your father told you to take them away, or your father decides something unfair or unjust, and you can't raise your voice about it. You can't say anything about it because, hey, respect your father, respect your mother. The same Quran that says stand up for justice, even if it's against both your parents. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. That's also Quran. The same Quran that says be the best to your parents says stand up for justice, even if you have to stand up against yourself and against both of your parents, because the Quran is constantly teaching balance. But what happens in a culture where you'll highlight one thing and you ignore the other? You create an imbalance, and people think this is Islam. People start thinking this is Islam. This is the same kind of extreme that will happen. Respect for ulama, respect for scholars is a cornerstone of our civilization. We have to have respect for scholars. But does respect for scholars means you can't ask them a question and you can't say, hey, you said something, but that's not making sense. Or you said something, I'm not sure how that adds up. Can you explain yourself? Or there seems to be a contradiction between what you said here and what you said here. Can you reconcile that? Could it be that you made a mistake? And he says, you have no respect for the ulama. Do you know where I graduated from? Do you know who my father was? Do you know the history of my heritage and the ijazat I got? You're going to question me? That kind of mentality would have worked maybe in the Catholic Church at some point when you're going to question the Pope. That could have worked. That could have worked in some other religious tradition where you don't question the religious clergy. But in this religion, we started the Surah Al-Baqarah with Allah making a verdict that He's going to put humans on the earth, and the angels asked a question, how could you do that? He's going to cause corruption in the world. Even Allah gave the right to the angels to ask questions when they didn't understand something. And they're not questioning a scholar, they're questioning who? Allah Himself. Our religion began with the right to ask questions, and Allah didn't say, how dare you ask a question? Allah said, إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. But it can become an extreme, can't it? And once that becomes an extreme, once any extreme forms, it becomes like a cancer. It has larger consequences on the society. It starts having multiple reactions, not just limited to one area, in all other areas. So this teaching of balance is actually something not only the Muslims need, it's actually what all of humanity needs. It's all of humanity. And it always begins with a good idea. Like I said, rights of parents is a good idea. We're living in times of great extremism, even in government, where you'll take an idea like national security, a good idea, a powerful, legitimate idea. Every nation on earth should be concerned with national security. But when you go excessive, that same good term, you can commit unspoken kinds of immoral, illegal, inhumane activities in the name of what? National security, right? Because you went into an extreme. In our judgments, the word deen, the last thing I'll share with you today, is the word deen isn't just for religion. The word deen in Arabic, like the phrasing in Arabic, كَمَا تَدِينُ تُدَانُ, the way you deal with people, that is how you shall be dealt with. Deen is actually an all-encompassing term for how you deal with people, how you make judgments. You know, like a famous hadith, you marry a woman for her deen, doesn't just mean does she wear hijab or not. It actually means how does she deal with elders, how does she deal with conflict, how does she deal with, her peers, how does she deal with other women, how does she deal with in-laws, what are her dealings like? That's actually deen too. Right? So when Allah says, لا تغلوا في دينكم, this is a pretty comprehensive phrase the people of the book were told. Don't become obsessive, don't become extreme in any of your dealings, in any of them. Now, before I leave you, I just want to give you some food for thought because this has so many powerful implications. I want to leave you with some things that for you to think about and discuss, inshallah, with your friends and family as we end this khutbah. And that has to do with an extreme that the Muslims sometimes fall into without realizing it. As a group, not as individuals, but even as a group. On the one hand, you can have an extreme, this is we want a protective environment for our children. We want to protect our kids from bad influences outside, right? So that's a good thing. There should be a nurturing, protective environment for our children. If you take that too far, then you're putting your children inside of a cocoon and they don't know what's going on in the outside world. They don't know what other kids are doing and talking about. They don't know what's out there. And the moment they get old enough, because you cannot keep them inside this cocoon forever, eventually you'll have to get them out of that environment and take them outside. And because you tried to overprotect them, they weren't ready for what's coming from the outside. They never learned what it means to get into a fight and how to deal with that problem. They never learned how to face adversity. They never learned to respond to someone who's making fun of them or to challenge what they believe. They never learned any of that. They never learned how to handle intimidation, how to respond to it, how to engage with it, how to deal with it. Why? Because you were trying to protect them. Well, your attempt to protect them actually made them the most unprotected. That one extreme ended up becoming the other extreme, right? And then there are other folks that can say, no, I want my child to know what the world is like. I want them to make non-Muslim friends, and as they should, I believe they should too. And so they engage with the society, but there's not enough of a nurturing environment to strengthen what they actually believe, right? So now they're too overexposed to the outside and the outside elements, and that's become an extreme. And what's supposed to ground them in their own identity and their own protected environment, what's supposed to fuel them, not enough of that is there. And what happens is those kids eventually say, well, I don't know about this Islam thing, Mom. You do your Islam. I'm out. I don't want to deal with it. And then those people come into the Imam and say, give me an extreme solution. Give me some surah I can recite and on my child, and they'll come back to Islam, right? That's not how this works. When you take when you follow an extreme path, you're going to get extreme consequences. That's just the nature of things that Allah has made. It is and the final food for thought I'll give you on this subject. Inshallah, I plan on fleshing this out some more for us. Muslims, we've had a good life in the US, and we've had some hiccups along the way, but we've had a good life in the US. As I travel across the world, I get more perspective on what life for Muslims is like everywhere, in the Muslim world and the non-Muslim world, right? The United States, Muslims, the Muslim community fares much better. Our life is much easier and much more opportunistic, but we have much more opportunity than most places in the world to live the way we want to live, to practice our religion the way we want to practice our religion, to study our religion, to learn our religion, to engage in discourse, etc., etc. We've had that. But unfortunately, we took this to an extreme. And what we did as a result of this extreme is we became too comfortable. We became too comfortable. The thing is, we stopped learning from history. When a minority stays in a larger society and they become too comfortable and they stay within themselves, the larger society, even though you're going to the same grocery stores, you're stopping at the same gas stations, you're going to the same hospitals, you're engaged in that society, but you're also cut off from them. You're not engaging, and they don't know what you're actually about. They don't know what you're really about, right? There's not enough engagement with them. Eventually, that society, they will need someone to blame for their problems. And this is history. This is not America. This is history. And usually, faith communities are one of the first targets. And the reason they're targets is because they were actually comfortably living in one form of an extreme or another, and they didn't address something that was so basic in our religion: the rights of your neighbor. Many people they live 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away from a masjid. They know people at the masjid, barely, but they definitely don't know 5 neighbors this way and 5 neighbors that way. Forget 10 neighbors and 40 neighbors like the hadith mentions. They don't even know 5 neighbors. They don't even know. So when something's going to happen, they can't be good to their neighbor. By the way, Quran told you to be good to your neighbor or no? Yeah. Right? The Quran told us that. And imagine the entire Muslim community was good to their neighbors across the USA, just across the USA. Wouldn't that become one of the most powerful Islamophobia campaigns that ever existed? Like, before your neighbor watches something on Fox News or whatever about Muslims or anywhere else on any other platform, before that image of the Muslim is already broken by their neighbor Ahmed, their neighbor Kareem, their neighbor Fatima, isn't it? But we became extremely comfortable and isolated. And we became happy in that comfort and in that isolation. And there are prices to pay for that. It's not too late, but we better wake up. None of these forms of extremes are going to help us survive. None of them. There are people who live extremely. They're extremists. They live in the past. They don't want to live in the present. Why can't we go back to the days of Umar radiallahu anhu? Because Allah decided that the days of Umar radiallahu anhu are over. That's why. Because Allah decided that it's 2025. Oh, things before social media were so good. Well, Allah decided to allow social media to spread all over the world. What do you want to do? Before social media, there was less fitna. No, there wasn't. Have you studied pre-Islamic poetry? Have you studied what was happening in the Abbasi period in the Muslim Ummah? Like, the things you're considering crazy extremes and fitna, and all of this stuff existed, man. All of this, without a device, it still existed. It still existed. Allah did not create us to be in ideal situations. Allah created the world to be a challenging place no matter where you are. And then you have to find balance even though you're in a challenging situation. Even though you're in that situation. I pray that the Muslims of this country rise to the occasion, myself included, all of us included, that we recognize that there is a very deep problem in front of us, but that problem should not lead us to just become alerted and scared. This problem is also a major opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to rise to an occasion and to actually show what balance looks like. Everyone in this country is talking about one extreme or the other, a far right extreme, a far left extreme, an authoritarian extreme, a woke extreme, 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 extreme. And